Welcome to the Downtown Design Review meeting for April 20th, 2017. Please turn off your cell phone, pagers, whatever. Roll call.
Betsy Brunstetter.
Present.
Gigi Faulkner.
Present.
Charles Ainsworth.
Present.
Corey Bates. Nathaniel Harding.
Present.
Connie Scothorn.
Present.
And Danielle Terrio.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Great. Hope everybody has read the minutes. Do I have a motion and a second on the minutes, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Ainsworth, Faulkner, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no cases withdrawn. We have no continuance request. On the consent docket, I would like to move to hear case B and move it to the end of the docket just in case the applicant shows up. What?
Yeah, I have to recuse myself of that.
Well, maybe you could do a presentation on it.
I'm told that the team is en route. They're just not in the room yet.
Awesome. Good.
So you're moving B to the end of the document.
Yes.
Second.
I don't think we have to vote on that.
You don't have to vote.
Okay. I need someone to, is there a motion on the consent? Is there a motion on the consent docket?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay. Ainsworth, Harding, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So item A is approved. Cases for individual consideration, probably be good to put on my glasses. Item A, 300 Park Avenue. Is the applicant present? Would you come forward and talk to us about your project?
Good morning. As some of us that walk in downtown have noticed, Project 180 has finished and it's kind of exciting. We have a lot of new landscaping. One of the issues that came up because of Project 180 is that the sign in front of the library had to be removed. And when they went to put it back in, the issue that came up is there's a requirement now for landscaping within 10 feet of the monument sign itself. And if you are familiar with that area, there's some large landscaped areas that are actually kind of underneath the curved part of the building. What you see in this picture is the base that was put in when they did the sidewalk, and the landscaped areas are behind these columns. And they are fairly large. They're larger than what's required for the points for landscaping. And so they actually need a variance because the landscaping is not within 10 foot, which is required by Chapter 3, which is the sign regulations. The sign itself, and let me get to the pictures. The original sign was just a rectangle, and the new sign is going to have kind of like an angle on the top so things will drain off of it. It's also, they provided us some information about the material, the sign actually that was in the process of being constructed. This is the sign, it just doesn't have the roof cap. The roof cap will look like this because this is another sign for another library that's going to look just like it. And so they are actually on the agenda for Board of Adjustment this afternoon. And what's before you is approval of the sign with the condition that they receive a variance from the Board of Adjustment from the landscape requirements. And as you're aware, we end up needing 2 motions on this.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
Jim Llewellyn, I'm with the Oklahoma City Public Works Department. We'd replace the sign in generally the same location that the existing sign was. We're just unfamiliar with the requirement for the 10 feet, and we're just requesting a variance on that.
Okay, so you just want to replace a sign with a sign and not change any of the surrounding environment?
Yes, all the landscaping beds and everything are the original location. The sign has moved slightly, but it's still generally in the same location that it was. But they wanted to replace the sign because of maintenance issues with it, and then it was a low sign and they had people sitting on it and things like that. So the library would like to put a different, a little bit taller sign in there.
Okay. Do we have a motion or any questions on this?
Go ahead.
All right. I move to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the downtown design district zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report, with the condition that the applicant receives a variance from the Board of Adjustment from the landscape requirements.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do you want to do the motion on?
I move to provide a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for variance from the landscape requirements.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? You're approved. Thanks for being here. Okay, the next item is 700 Broadway Avenue. We've gotten a lot of communication on this. Is the applicant present? And Lisa, are you taking the staff?
Yes, this is a new 5-story condominium building at Northwest 6th and Broadway. Yes, we received many comments over all positive in the past several days that have been forwarded to all the members. Let me know if anybody doesn't have them. There were a couple, I think staff believed that most everything in terms of regulations and guidelines was met. There were a couple of issues we cited in the staff report. One was about the encroachment on the sight distance triangle, and since the report went out, we have confirmed with the traffic engineer that that's not an issue for this project, so we don't have to worry about that one. This project, like another project last year, does propose some exterior balconies. These are on Northwest 6th as opposed to Broadway Avenue, which staff believes is more appropriate since it's on the side street. There's also an issue we've evaluated on other projects about, you can see it in this image, about the height differential between the new building and the existing building. The existing building was actually historically a 3-story building, but the upper floors burned down decades ago. And we're told by the applicant that recently we did a administrative approval for the building right next door. And that applicant informed us that the structure capacity still existed to add on stories and that they were careful to preserve that. It still is a large differential. The staff report notes that we don't anticipate that differential being there forever, and the downtown development framework and the regulations both require a taller building at this corner site.
So if they didn't do at least a 3-story building, they'd have to ask for a variance.
Right. Yeah, that density is highly desired at this site. So that's the height. And then another thing to think about for this project was the ground floor is proposed as a private parking garage, which the committee has previously strongly advocated for active use at the ground floor of buildings, which the guidelines and the DDF also ask for. What this building does do is it's designed with enough floor-to-floor height and structural base spacing that at any time that it can, needs to be converted into retail, it's easy to do. But in the meantime, they need the parking to support the residences. And also in the meantime, they're proposing very large display windows that would read from the street as areas of interest. So those were the two things we saw.
Okay. Bruce, can you tell us your name and about the project?
Yes, Bruce Bacchus. I'm the architect on the project, or our firm, Bacchus Payne and Associates Architects, home of the 2-for-1 special on anything over 40 floors this week only. So first of all, I want to say thanks to the staff. Lisa and Laura have been awesome in helping me navigate the waters of seeking approval, helping me to understand the DDF, the handout, the Automobile Alley guidelines, and I appreciate so much your coaching during the process. It's been invaluable. I thank the Automobile Alley Association and their subcommittee for meeting with us, collaborating with us, and letting the process work. It was invaluable. And then finally, you, citizen group of volunteers, unpaid, unthanked, but thank you for what you do for all of us. We're here because we care about our city, and we want to continue collaborating to achieve great outcomes for OKC. Clearly, all the guidelines, sometimes one guideline is in conflict with another. We face that. How do we resolve both issues? And we've tried to do that through conversations with staff in Automobile Alley. We are seeking unity in the area, not uniformity. And clearly, Automobile Alley has a wide variety of heights, materials, scales, and we're trying to fit into that. We have the conflict of what the marketplace requires in a project versus what the handout and the DDF and Automobile Alley would like to see, sometimes through regulations, sometimes through guidelines. But we tried to meet the spirit of the guidelines in every case. The balcony issue, we think that the balconies, or we call them terraces, outdoor living space, is a critical element of a living area downtown. What we have to offer the residents, the 11 lucky families that will get to live here, is this incredible skyline view and location. And we believe that an outdoor element is essential to being able to market and sell this product. So we have to have that, but we wanted to honor Automobile Alley because we don't want to see balconies along there, and certainly not ones that have been added on. So we had the idea of only having the outdoor terraces along 6th Street. We recessed them into the building so it creates a void and a shadow line. We think it fits with the context of the building to the west, the 701 building, which has a whole structural bay open and has the same void in it as well. The second issue was the adjacency of heights, and you discussed that well, Lisa. Thank you. Historically, it was a 3-story building next door. We hope that there'll be more density than the current single-story building someday, so we're excited about that. And so we did at least attempt to accommodate it by doing a limestone base that was at the same height of the adjacent building next door, and changed the materials. So in the context, the street scale, we think matches very well with what goes on to the north. But in the overall context, what's across the street is a 5-story building. And then we've got taller buildings generally on the corners, not always, but hopefully Automobile Alley will have a greater density than 1 story. And that's just going to add to the vitality of the area. The last thing was the most difficult, in our opinion, was dealing with the guideline that would like to see retail, interactive street use, pedestrian contact and interaction, and that just came in direct conflict with our absolute need to have parking for these units. These 11 exclusive homes, we couldn't sell them if we didn't give each of the homeowners a parking place. But we're in absolute agreement when the car is no longer necessary, Nick can't wait to convert it to retail. And so we're all for that. We're not against retail. What we did to try to comply with the spirit of the guideline was to create these sidewalk galleries, we call them, and be able to give that space to arts groups and other nonprofits to be able to put up their story in those store windows and be able to create that vitality by a changing storefront or gallery that's always changing. You're wondering what's going to go up in there next. And in that way, support the arts and nonprofits and meet the spirit of the guideline of creating some vitality along the streetscape. So that's where we are. We've worked hard with staff and Automobile Alley. We've got their support. Now I stand here ready to answer questions, address concerns that you might have, and also seek your approval as we want to move forward with the project. So thanks for hearing me.
Real quick overview, can you go over the materials?
Certainly.
It appears that you've got black brick, and I just want to hear
It
from you.
appears and is, it's a charcoal colored brick, which is, Automobile Alley says that's not one of our favorites in their guidelines, but they have approved it. So we address that issue with them. We like the contrast of the limestone and the charcoal brick. We think it's kind of a tuxedo, timeless look. And in the context of the building to the west, 701 building, those colors fit really nicely together. Laura, maybe you could, pop that up where the colors fit with what's going on to the west for sure. So it was addressed with Automobile Alley. It's not in the DDF or in the handout that charcoal brick would not be acceptable, but Automobile Alley addressed it and considered it in the context and approved the idea, or endorsed the idea, rather. Thank
Okay.
you for the question.
Do you have any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay.
Well, I was just curious, so I guess this is a question for staff. Those art storefronts that are proposed on the first floor, would what's displayed in there be needing a staff approval, or is that considered something similar to retail where it's just, it is what it is?
It is what it is. If it's signage attached to the glass, then it does, because there are guidelines about the amount and maintaining transparency, but otherwise it'll be just like any store display.
So it wouldn't have to go before the
You
Arts
wouldn't need to
Commission?
see it. Depends.
Yeah, they might check that out.
Okay.
You know, I love parking structures because of what they can do for the rest of the city. I hate parking structures because they do this to the street. But I tell you what, you did a really great rendering. It's the nighttime rendering, this one, that really illustrate what those windows could be, which would be better than an empty storefront. So if you really can pull that off, which is nothing that, I mean, we just talked about, we can't govern that, but it really actually livens the street, and it's not that long of a storefront along Broadway. So normally I would be really against that. But I do like the idea that the floor-to-floor height is big enough to place something else in there. Will we ever not have cars? Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah. Well, appreciate the compliment. We really do think it's a sidewalk art gallery that's constantly changing. It's a gift to that corner, really. And we don't know why that would not work. Artists are always looking for places to be able to exhibit their work.
Yeah. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to this?
Good morning, Rand Elliott. I'm here on behalf of the Automobile Alley Board and the Design Committee. We wholeheartedly support this project at 6th and Broadway. Nick and his team have been absolutely terrific in working with us through this review process. They have presented both to the board and to the Design Committee, and there were multiple discussions and so forth with this. And this is an exemplary, just like to compliment them, this is an exemplary way of going about the process, where there was communication, there was discussion, there was thought. There was back and forth on everything from materials to scale to the color of the brick and so forth. And the process really did work. It worked seamlessly, and we're happy about that. We hope that all of the interfaces that we have with others interested in doing these kinds of things on Automobile Alley will use this as an example. So thank you very much.
Okay. It is a nicely designed building. Congratulations to both of you guys. Any other questions? Anyone else from the audience? Okay, we have a motion.
I move to approve the application on the basis the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in sections C and D of the staff report for the condition that the applicant obtains a determination from the Public Works Director the encroachment. And I think you said that.
Yeah,
that's
we don't need that condition.
All right, done. Move to approve.
Second.
Ainsworth and Faulkner, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a,
Congratulations.
yeah, very, very nice. Can't wait to see it built. Item C is 1217 Northwest 12th Street.
I'm not sure anybody from the MAPS office is here. I'm not sure why, but I can speak to it.
Okay.
You may remember about a year ago, we approved the streetcar route. We approved an initial group of the power supplies that go with them. They look like a metal shipping container, for lack of a better word, that were placed around town. So that was the end of last summer. The MAPS office had to get approval for locations before they could start to acquire the property. So they have since acquired a lot of property, but they've had to move some of the locations, and this is one of them. Because they need to be a certain distance from the line, and then we have requirements about where we think it should go. So this is at the corner of Robinson and 12th Street on the northwest corner. So you can see in this map that Laura's showing, in the upper left of the map is where the TPSS is going. It's actually addressed off Robinson. It's addressed off that driveway off 12. But the corner lot is actually another owner, so we're just talking about this north lot is this property owner. So staff believes that the location is fine, it's out of the way, it preserves a big chunk of the lot off Robinson for something else, and it'll be presumably the 12th Street front lot will be developed and no one will ever see the TPSS. And they are required to get a variance for the drive aisle width. I mean, that's only for very occasional maintenance access, but it's smaller than what is permitted by the Chapter 10 aisle standards.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report, with the condition that the applicant obtains a variance from the Board of Adjustment for the minimum access drive width requirements.
So a second? Second. That was Faulkner and Scothorn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll move to provide a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for a variance from the minimum access drive width requirements.
Second. Okay. Same two. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much for being here. Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that team is here.
Yes, I noticed, and somebody is here from across the ocean. Are you moving back? Okay. So I pulled this item, which was on the consent docket, because I feel like it's important for us to see and have a public forum on some very, very good projects as well as others. So,
And as it was on the consent because there were no issues with guidelines or regulations, we're really excited about this project. There's a lot happening up in that part of town. The one we just did is just around the corner from it, but since you were wanting to hear their presentation.
yes,
I'm
exactly.
gonna just step aside and...
Not intended to be punitive at all. I just wanted to be able to get this in front of the public, so.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Timothy Neville Lee. I'm an architect with Alford Hall, Monaghan Moritz Architects. And I'm hoping that we have the full report that was submitted that I can speak through.
So we have the visuals
If
from
not, I believe we brought the report on the thumb drive, if it would be acceptable to...
Do you have one on the thumb drive?
Yeah, what
I think it would
Tim's
help to
referring
give you
to, yeah, they submitted a lot of documentation with their process and
that's fine.
studies. Yeah, but we just included the final renderings.
And I'm not trying to extend the meeting for anybody, but I just think that this is a great project, and I'd like to see the whole process if possible.
I'm very happy to talk you through that. So the report that's coming up in just a moment should do that. It speaks to the process, the ideas behind the project, particularly the development of those concepts. That's exactly right. Thank you. So if I could have the first slide, please. The first thing to note, I suppose, is it's three existing buildings on the site, 1210 to 1214, of various different qualities, and that really was the genesis of the way that we approached the project. It's treated in a way as, certainly historically, it's been treated as one building, but clearly there are three very different characters to it, and we have three very different tenancies going into the space now. So this is the somewhat diminutive storefront of 1210. If we go on to the next one. This at 1212 Hudson was once a theatre, and at 1214 this was developed later on and was a medical centre. And when they did the medical centre, they started to they developed 12 the theatre building to be part of that, and it started to work as one building. They had a single core that served both. But as you can see, a historically significant building in the area once the Uptown Theatre. And as I've noted, it's three different buildings, three very different characters. There is quite an assortment of different building materials there, ranging from sort of good quality facing brick to common stock brick, painted stucco services, some cast stone surrounds, lots of tile work, some metal siding, and then all kinds of different window systems. So these aerial views, one taken from the southeast, one taken from the northwest, try to talk through the concept. So this is the building as it stands at the moment. If we go on to the next one. The first thing we'd like to do is try to bring that building into order, if you like, so to remove some of the extraneous elements and the ones that are dilapidated. Then we'd like to go back and restore some of the important features on the building, not least of all the blade sign and the marquee to the theatre, but also the storefront. And then this really gets to the crux of the design, I suppose, that the idea that we're trying to reconcile this into one single building from three, and that the response, therefore, needs to be a continuous idea that starts to wrap around the building. And as I've noted here, the dotted line on that, the east elevation, I think if we, in an ideal world, this would be a sort of U-shaped thing that enveloped the whole of the building, but in practice that we've used the back side of the theatre building as the line that we strike. And then to fill in those voids, if you like, an idea of a building that has a very clearly expressed architectural language, and one that's consistent, even though the tendencies, the functions of the building are obviously quite diverse. And then finally, we like to try and create places and for the building to hit the ground in an elegant way. In a sense, the east elevation is becoming a new front door, as is the way of many buildings in Oklahoma City. The front door is the one from the parking lot. And I think this is also a very important point to make, and particularly with regard to the design of the extension to 1210 Hudson. And that's the fact that this building is going to be a future backdrop to phase 2 of this development. The client has purchased the site all the way down to 11th Street, and the future intention is to put some development there, whether I think it's going to be residential in some form, whether that's residential or a hotel use is still to be determined. But we drew through this in many different ways and kept coming back to the idea of holding the corner on Hudson and 11th and trying to conceal parking behind that. And by virtue of the fact there is a slight grade across the site, I think we've done something quite clever here, where there are 2 levels of parking, but concealed by the L-shaped building that holds that corner. I mention that really to say that I'm conscious that the elevation to 1210, the new proposal there, is quite prominent on 11th Street. And we would care about that in any case, but clearly that is soon to become the backdrop of potentially some residential apartments, and so we care about it doubly. This is just a reprise of the materials on the building, but if you go on to the next slide, what we wanted to do was try and draw all of those together, so to try and pick up on a number of them. The idea of the aluminum window system, the metal siding, and try and draw that together into a very simplified palette of materials that would contrast the existing buildings. So these are the 4 elevations, and really starting with the north elevation, which I think tries to explain some of the ideas that then run around the rest of the building. This is actually a development that is going to be for resolution legal groups, law offices. And the existing building, in truth, does not make for a spectacular office building. It has a comparatively low ceiling. It's got a nice ribbon window, but they're quite high sills. And so we wanted to, obviously, to make that a spectacular building for them, and felt that the way we would do that is by creating a new entrance, as I said, that would be from the east, that would create all of the special functions of the building, so that the elevator core, the stair, meeting rooms, conference rooms, reception, all of those functions that are somewhat different from just a normal office space would be pulled off to one side and therefore are entirely within our gift. We've drawn on the strong horizontal elements on the existing building and really extrapolated that into a sort of overarching frame that is a theme that you'll see will come up time and time again. Having established that frame, then a matter of just very simple infills, either solid panels or glazed panels, or in the case of one of these parts of the elevation, perforated metal panels to give that sort of translucency and solar protection. And I hadn't realized that circular openings in building were going to be so vogue in this part of Oklahoma City, but I'd like to think we set the trend on that one. This is the elevation, as I say, quite prominent from 11th Street, of the extension to 1210 Hudson, which is going to be a brewery and tap room. And clearly the brewery space wants to be a large empty volume for the works of the brewery, but that the existing mercantile space on Hudson very nicely suited and very well sized for the tap room. And you can see again this idea of the overarching frame. Finally, the street elevation, and just a matter really, this is shown as a matter of good form, an idea that we're trying to work with what's there, just to restore and return to good order what was once a very handsome building. So you have the visuals then. These are photorealistic renderings of the scheme. This is the entrance space to Resolution Legal Group. And this, I think, you're obviously less interested with the interiors of buildings, but particularly the slide on the right, the idea that we create these voids through the existing building that give you that sense of generosity, but also the language of the existing steel frame that was our starting point, if you like, for drawing that outside of the building to create this language that we've developed. Here it is in a different form of the cladding for the extension of 1210, the brewery space. And I think this is possibly the last slide, the restoration of the existing theatre building. That is as much as I have to say, but I'm very happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Is it a tax credit project?
We're seeking tax credits on 2 of the buildings, yes.
Thank you. You really explained it a lot better than the materials in our packet, so we really appreciate that. Any motions? Anybody from the audience want to speak about this? Yeah, we need. Yes.
Since Corey isn't here, I'll sub. I move to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C of the staff report.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you
And on a
so much.
personal note, I live on 18th Street. I'm really excited about your project. That's
I appreciate that.
very
Thank you.
cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Exciting to see that.
Yes, we're excited about it too.
So you're just in town for a few days?
Well, I thought I'd swing by the DDRC hearing in the case that... no, there's an architectural tour on Saturday as well that I wanted to attend.
Okay.
But it's always fun to be back.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is no other business. We have an administrative approval report. Lisa, any big items?
Nope, thunder banners, revisions to various other cases. I think next month's might be twice as big. We've processed a lot of AAs lately.
Okay. Well, thank you all for indulging me that. Any communication from the planning department?
Yes, elections, officer elections for chair and vice chair will be in May. We do have a few cases on for May. It's not going to be a very long meeting, maybe. We have some cases for May. But we're going to have May is when we elect officers. For those who are unaware, Betsy and Gigi are at the end of their current terms, and they are term limited. So they can continue to serve until replaced. I don't know exactly when that will happen, but they may not be the right.
We just may not show up after May, right?
Yes. So
You all have to be here.
So consider who you might nominate, and if you do not, we as staff always encourages the chair and vice chair positions to rotate. So
Okay.
think about that in between now and then.
We haven't listened to that advice.
Exactly. It's been totally, completely ignored for years.
Okay. That's pretty, I mean, it depends on how controversial they are, of course.
I don't think they are, but we'll see. We're not being cryptic, just,
Okay, got it. Okay, any comments from the committee members? With that, we are adjourned.